Okay, supports and training for clients to engage in shared decision making.
Well, our group kind of initially talked about how do you get to that power statement. So that Pat Deegan talked about, how does a person really get a sense of what their preferences are, because not everybody has thought about work or even medications. And in that regard, we talked about some tools, some person-centered planning tools that are being developed out of EOHS through a CMS grant. And I think we'll be hearing more about these. And Lori Burgess mentioned this, but they are to be adapted for different kinds of services, but the idea is that they elicit preferences from the client and help them communicate them with the provider. And there's also a training piece for this on the provider side, because it probably goes without saying that as many supports as you can provide for a consumer, it's really not going to work unless you have a provider who at least somewhat buys into it. And then there's the whole part about making choices. Now, a lot of people are uncomfortable making choices, regardless of mental illness or not. So, it raises anxiety with a lot of people. And how do you help people make those choices? And the person-centered planning tools I just mentioned should do that, but we also, I think, in a big way endorse the peer specialist role as someone who can meet with a client out in a horizontal way, in a comfortable way, and maybe work with little things and how they can build up to making bigger choices. So she talked about some of the work she's doing in the state hospital, where she helps people start with just making some basic choices, and so they can build up to make bigger choices. Whether the big choice may be whether or not I leave the hospital, but it's not something that you can just spring on somebody. And we see the peer specialist as someone who can really be sensitive to that and help. I mean, as well as other staff, but the peer specialist can be particularly good there. And it occurred to us that, so we thought about, not only is the peer specialist someone who can do that, but also help the person become up to date on different either evidence-based practices or practices we know and like. And not only that, but perhaps even go into a session with them. Because, I always feel kind of intimidated in a way when I'm with a doctor, more so in the past, but it's not easy to assert yourself. The medications might be doing a number on you. And someone asked me, I think it was Lori who asked me, in my case, I was on a medication that was really damaging me and made me basically zombie-like, and it took like 6 months, I think, for me to finally say something. And she asked if I had a peer advocate working with me, would that make a difference? And it would have. I would have told that person, and that person might have said, maybe let's go in and talk to the psychiatrist, because this person wasn't exactly warm, just warm, and not someone who elicited your. So we need some of that coaching. There's also the aspect of being in an even playing field with your provider. So Pat talked about, or maybe Bob did too, about how we want to know how we're doing in the provider's eyes. It might be through seeing medical records, or if we're taking batteries of tests every time we come in. I think we want to see our progress too. we need that information too to really be good decision makers as consumers. We see the RLCs as also being very supportive of this process, particularly with training specialists. And the example that kind of came up that's sort of real time is around psychiatric emergency services and the MBHP rollout of those. And, you know, there are peer specialists who are going to be on those community-based teams, and the idea is to keep people out of hospitals. So couldn't one role of a peer specialist be to help the client think about what their options are? Because here the person is, they're in an emergency situation, so maybe if that's one role of the client is just relaxing the person and saying, maybe these are some of your options, joining that person in other meetings they have. I think we'll have to see how it plays out. But I think that's kind of a really good testing ground since it's starting in July. Have I missed any? Okay, thank you.